All right, you guys, knock it off!
The 1970s were a revolutionary decade for television, filled with iconic failures and groundbreaking series. While some shows went on to become treasured classics, others had trouble connecting and were criticized for various reasons. Our Top 10 Most Hated 1970s TV Shows list delves into these lost gems, asking why some ideas vanished from popular culture so quickly and what turned viewers off. These series are examples of what not to do regarding television entertainment, whether due to subpar execution, poorly considered premises, or antiquated preconceptions. David Cassidy, Man Undercover. David Cassidy was a former teen darling who charmed audiences with his endearing performances in The Partridge Family. But switching from a pop icon to a serious protagonist in Man Undercover wasn't easy. In the 1978 NBC television series, Cassidy played a police officer who went undercover to investigate various crimes. The show failed because it couldn't stand out in a crowded field of police dramas, even with an appealing premise. The story frequently emphasized formulaic criminal scenarios and predictable narratives, which lacked depth and creativity. Because of these restrictions, the episodes became formulaic, and Cassidy's character was not given as much room to grow as it could have. To capitalize on Cassidy's celebrity, the show hoped his loyal fan following would follow him into this more responsible position. However, the series was overshadowed by his adolescent idol image, which made it challenging for fans to reconcile this new identity. Critics pointed out that the show's dependence on Cassidy's notoriety did not compensate for its uninspired plots or poor storytelling. The lack of exciting and novel material in Man Undercover left audiences wanting more. After just a few episodes, the show quickly ended due to a lack of strong and consistent viewership. The creators misjudged the difficulties of relaunching Cassidy's career, believing his legendary reputation would bring rapid success. This error in judgment brings to light an important lesson in television production. Star power is insufficient to override the significance of an engaging tale and original storytelling. Man Undercover is a moving reminder that even the brightest stars require a strong foundation to shine again in the cutthroat world of 1970s television. Supertrain. When Supertrain debuted on NBC in 1979, it was one of the most ambitious productions of its time, with expectations as high as the locomotive that bore the same name. In the series, various people, each with their own distinct story, boarded an opulent, technologically sophisticated train resembling a cruise liner on rails. The idea promised a mix of humor, drama, and adventure, elements the creators thought would appeal to a wide audience. But Supertrain was hampered by its lofty goals. The production encountered many technical difficulties, especially with its ornate sets and visual effects, essential to bringing the enormous train atmosphere to life. Budget overruns were a major problem because the show's expensive production value exceeded its content quality. Consequently, Supertrain became one of the most costly missteps in the history of television. The writing frequently presented disorganized plots that could not counterbalance the intended comedy and mystery, failing to produce coherent tales. The show's idea demanded a smooth blending of various components, yet viewers were left with fragmented stories and uneven character growth. Moreover, viewers were left perplexed about the show's purpose due to its unique slapstick humor and drama blend. It was torn between simulating a comedy's carefree fun and a thriller's suspenseful adventure. The characters' shallow performances, which did not give them any nuance or relatability, worsened this identity issue. Supertrain was canceled after 9 episodes due to little viewer engagement, despite its high budget and unique concept. It serves as a warning about the perils of excessive ambition and the significance of narrative focus for the success of television shows. In retrospect, Supertrain might have achieved the long-term success it so desperately desired if it had placed more of an emphasis on plot development and less on spectacle. Me and the Chimp. The 1972 television series Me and the Chimp, written by Gary Marshall and Thomas L. Miller, failed to build on the duo's earlier achievements. In the sitcom, Ted Bessel played dentist Mike Reynolds, whose family was upended by a chimpanzee named Button. The show's execution fell short of its goal of capturing the humorous possibilities of owning an unusual pet. The idea was a big problem. However, animal-centered comedies have gained popularity. Me and the Chimp didn't create a compelling or credible story that could work as a series. Originally intended to provide a comic framework, the chimpanzee antics quickly became formulaic, spending more on slapstick than nuanced speech or situational humor. Even by 1970 standards, the humor seemed old, and its lack of creativity prevented it from being more widely accepted. Furthermore, the human personalities in the immediate vicinity lacked development. Ted Bessel's abilities were not fully utilized. The focus was frequently on Button's antics, overshadowing his character, Mike Reynolds. The Chimp's antics took center stage in the sitcom, which should have been centered around the family dynamic. This left little opportunity for character growth or audience connection. Another criticism is the stereotypical and shallow way the Reynolds family was portrayed. Audiences found it challenging to connect with the characters, since the conversations were forced and lacked deep connections. The brief runtime of the program made matters worse by providing little time for character or story development. Me and the Chimp tried to capture a lighthearted, family-friendly comedy without the components required for longevity, but in the end, it was a product of its period. Its brief appearance on television shows how quickly anything can become outdated if it only uses animal gimmicks instead of solid character development or creative storytelling. It emphasizes to contemporary artists how crucial it is to combine original concepts with character-driven storylines to keep people interested. Heha Honeys. Heha Honeys, a 1978 spin-off of the popular variety show Heha, attempted to mimic its predecessor's humor and country music combination, but the program fell short of emulating the warmth and charm that made Heha such a treasured classic. The superficiality of Heha Honeys was criticized since it lacked the depth that made its predecessor relatable to viewers. The program largely highlighted the younger, more attractive female cast members of Heha, but it overlooked the original show's broad popularity. Heha Honeys overemphasized beauty at the expense of substance, while Heha balanced musical performances, relatable rural humor, and funny sketches. This change made its attempts at humor more conventional and uninspiring rather than a witty rural satire. Furthermore, the characterizations in Heha Honeys lacked the depth and charm of those in the original program. Many performers were talented musicians, but their performances were often relegated to supporting roles, emphasizing using the visuals as a hook rather than the content. This diminished any chance to create relatable stories or deep audience ties. Even though it featured well-known actors from Heha, the spin-off lacked the warmth and genuineness of its parent show. The original was engaging and accessible, but the writing lacked the wit and local expertise. As a result, Heha Honeys lacked a consistent storyline that would have kept viewers interested from week to week, making it seem flimsy and episodic. In addition, the program had trouble identifying its target audience. The deft use of humor and music in Heha made it appealing to a broad audience. In contrast, Heha Honeys lacked clarity in its strategy and failed to successfully attract viewers who had enjoyed the original show or made new ones. This identification uncertainty facilitated its quick cancellation. Heha Honeys perfectly illustrates the dangers associated with spin-offs that cannot innovate or hold on to the essential components that made their predecessors successful. It's a sobering story for authors hoping to expand on a successful series, highlighting the necessity of having a distinct vision and a dedication to high-quality characters and material. The Brady Bunch Variety Hour. A risky but unsuccessful attempt was made with the Brady Bunch Variety Hour to bring the cherished Brady family back into the modern variety show format. When the show debuted in 1976, it included a recast of the original ensemble, but featured sketch comedy and song and dance routines instead of the endearing episodic drama that fans had come to love. Viewers found the change from a narrative sitcom to a variety show strange and startling. Loved for their realistic family dynamics, the Brady characters had lost most of their complexity and were now presented as exaggerated versions of their previous selves. Instead of delving into modern family concerns, the program prioritized surface-level entertainment, mainly depending on flashy musical numbers and unimaginative humorous routines. The format change removed the characters' depth and authenticity, which made critics and viewers alike quickly realize that there was a lack of meaningful material and relatability. Any possibility of providing cultural insights or real family moments was swamped by artificial attempts at humor, which frequently used slapstick and broad ethnic gags. The initial fan base, anticipating more from such beloved characters, became even more enraged by this reliance on outmoded humor. In addition, the production itself appeared unplanned and unduly ambitious. With extravagant sets and costumes, the Variety Hour attempted to mimic the glitzy, exuberant atmosphere of more popular variety shows such as the Carol Burnett Show. However, these aspects collapsed without true comedic talent or steady direction, and the program found it difficult to be more than just a spectacle. At best, the audience's response was lackluster, with many viewers longing for the realistic, familial exchanges that had elevated the Brady Bunch to a national icon. After just 9 episodes, it was quickly canceled due to these flaws. The Brady Bunch Variety Hour is a striking example of the possible drawbacks of drastically changing cherished formats. It emphasizes how crucial it is to keep storytelling cohesive and true to fundamental ideals. And it reminds producers that even the most endearing characters cannot make up for a deficiency in meaningful substance and strategic vision. Mr. T and Tina. With a predominantly Asian-American cast, a rarity in the 1970s television, Mr. T and Tina made a splash upon its 1976 premiere. The main character, Mr. Takahashi, was portrayed by Pat Morita, who became well-known for his portrayal as Mr. Miyagi in The Karate Kid. The show appeared to be a positive move toward representation on paper, but in reality it fell short, and not by much. The story made heavy use of insulting stereotypes, which made Japanese culture seem out of date and uncomfortable. Viewers thought the show to be disgusting and dull because it rehashed tired cliches rather than providing insightful or humorous content. Critics quickly criticized the show's careless writing. What started as an enjoyable family sitcom was an embarrassing demonstration of cultural insensitivity. Morita's character, a businessman acclimating to American society while caring for his nephews born here, was portrayed as clumsy and simplistic. Instead of using Morita's enormous talent, the show cast him in a part that was uninspired by the content and consisted of awkward circumstances and clumsy lines. Mr. T and Tina's failure went beyond their inadequate portrayal. The writing was uninspired, with scenarios that were, at best, predictable and gags that were a complete bust. The personalities and humor were too much for many viewers to relate to, which caused the show's ratings to drop quickly. The program was canceled after just 1 season, going down in history as one of the most despised TV ventures of the 1970s. Ultimately, Mr. T and Tina were meant to open the door for more varied television representation. Still, the way it was done exposed the shortcomings of surface-level diversity when it wasn't combined with a well-considered narrative. These days, the program is more remembered for being one of the most despised of its time than for its cultural value. Holmes and Yoyo. A strange combination of science fiction and crime drama, Holmes and Yoyo debuted on television in 1976. The idea, android detective Yo-Yo, is partnered with Detective Alexander Holmes. Despite its oddball and creative title, the show did not resonate with viewers. For a whole season, Holmes and Yo-Yo felt more like a comedy sketch than they did intriguing or innovative narratives. Both viewers and critics found the show's lack of originality and appeal puzzling. Most thought the gimmick became old after the first episode. The tone was the primary issue. The show struggled to choose between a fun comedy and a serious crime thriller. Yo-Yo's mechanical personality was frequently the target of jokes, but these instances weren't enough to keep people interested. Many deemed humor forced, and Holmes and Yoyo's exchanges grew monotonous. Viewers were treated to countless sequences of Yo-Yo malfunctioning or Holmes attempting to explain fundamental human behavior to his mechanical buddy in place of clever banter. Holmes and Yoyo were also criticized for not advancing the crime drama subgenre during a period when viewers were drawn to more gritty and realistic television series like Starsky and Hutch. Holmes and Yoyo appeared antiquated and unmodern. Its downfall was guaranteed by the absence of engaging secrets or memorable personalities. The program was abruptly discontinued after only one season, adding it to the list of unsuccessful television shows of the 1970s. Holmes and Yoyo, despite its creative idea, serves as a warning that gimmicks are insufficient to keep a television program afloat. Even bizarre concepts fail without compelling writing, characters, or a distinct vision. Three's a Crowd. Not in a positive manner, but Three's a Crowd stretched the boundaries of 1970s television. The idea, which debuted as a game show in 1979, matched a man's secretary against his wife to determine who knew him better. What was the outcome? A strange and provocative show that seemed to come right out of the past. The show was supposed to be lighthearted entertainment, but it soon became apparent that its format had severe issues. The program tapped into sexist cliches that many found repulsive by focusing on the conventional competitiveness among women. Rather than producing any form of entertainment value, Three's a Crowd produced uncomfortable and frequently painful on-screen experiences. Questions asked to the participants, many of whom were regular people, caused genuine emotional distress. On paper, it might have looked like a nice idea to watch a man's wife and secretary quarrel over who knew him better. Still, it was uncomfortable for everyone, including the audience. The show's antiquated ideas about women and relationships quickly drew criticism from feminist organizations and critics alike. The approach frequently violated the participants' privacy and reinforced harmful prejudices. The outcry was immediate, with many calling for the show's cancellation. It was widely criticized and discontinued after just one season, creating controversy. Ultimately, Three's a Crowd is regarded as one of the 1970s most despised television programs. Its premise was so offensive and ill-conceived that it quickly vanished from the TV scene. Coed Fever. Networks scrambled to produce TV series replicating the vulgar, collegiate humor viewers seemed to enjoy after Animal House's enormous success. A 1979 television program called Coed Fever was one such attempt. However, it turned out to be one of the biggest television disasters of the decade rather than a success. Even though the show attempted to capitalize on the film's popularity, its copycat nature and lack of innovation guaranteed its demise. The comedy attempt to use the fictitious all-female institution that has just started accepting men as students was a disastrous attempt at making light of the situation. Critics criticized Coed Fever for having uninspired writing and uninteresting characters. The scenarios were, at best, cliché, and the jokes were predictable. It quickly became clear that the show was a cheap copycat rather than a suitable successor to Animal House because nothing about it felt new or fascinating. The show's crude attempts at humor failed to resonate with viewers, and the underdeveloped characters didn't help. They struck people as one-dimensional characters rather than relatable or likable. The writing was sloppy, depending on cliches that were overdone, and vulgar comedy that wasn't funny. Coed Fever was one of the fastest-firing television shows, canceled after only one broadcast episode. Coed Fever, for all its aspirations, crashed and burned, earning a permanent spot among the 1970s most despised television programs. It perfectly illustrates how following trends without adequate foundation may quickly fail. Dusty's Trail. The 1973 television series Dusty's Trail had a striking resemblance to Gilligan's Island. In actuality, Sherman Schwartz, the man responsible for Gilligan and the skipper's tropical mishaps, was the one who conceived it. Instead of being abandoned on an island, a party of pioneers split away from their wagon train in the Old West environment. Sadly, viewers weren't impressed when they soon discovered that Dusty's Trail was Gilligan's Island with a cowboy hat. Bob Denver, who had portrayed the legendary Gilligan, returned as Dusty, an incompetent assistant who resembled his earlier character in many ways, but was more westernized. It was impossible to overlook how similar the two series were, and reviewers quickly pointed out that Dusty's Trail was just Gilligan's Island in a different setting. The lack of creativity put viewers off since it seemed like a sloppy repeat of a show they'd already watched. Apart from its rehashed plot, the program also had financial difficulties. The show's inexpensive sets and costumes and glaringly low production quality made it difficult to take it seriously. Like its predecessor, the humor was primarily based on slapstick and ridiculous miscommunications, but it lacked the endearing quality that made Gilligan's Island famous. Forrest Tucker of F Troop fame and Bob Denver were among the well-known personalities on Dusty's Trail, but the show fell short of charm of its predecessor. The program was canceled after just one season, and aside from being among the most despised television programs of the 1970s, it's been mainly forgotten since then. If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon